June 21st, 2025, Israel war Iran's deadly attacks on Israel are still happening, and Israel's air defense system has totally failed. At the same time, Israel continues to receive surprises from Iran. According to a Wall Street Journal story, Israel's supply of interceptor missiles is running low, and Iran possesses more missiles than Israel. It has been determined that the world powers currently have less time, particularly America. Donald Trump has granted Iran 2 weeks, but keep in mind that Iran is not going to take this time lightly, indicating that America's Iran might be attacked at any time by either side, and it appears that Iran is making all the necessary preparations and has resumed its attacks on Israel. However, the most crucial element in all of this is the influence of China. Will China now play a role in this conflict? On the one hand, a story about China's covert military assistance to Iran was released by a Trump-supporting television network. Remember this thing. The most crucial question is how Iran may be attacked. Discussions regarding China's covert military aid to Iran have already begun, and Trump has already seen the study. How can an American strike on Iran be considered an attack on China if the crisis spreads outside of the Middle East and a major international force invades the region? There will be some imagination, and many of China's interests will stay in the air. For example, CPAC is a component of China's Belt and Road Program, BRI, but Iran is also an essential element of that program. But at this time, knowing how China is handling the issue of the strikes on Iran is crucial. First of all, Nasrin Ram, let me tell you that these issues are currently being openly discussed by Iran. As you are aware, even during yesterday's Geneva talks, Iran stated unequivocally that we will not stop uranium enrichment to zero, and that we will not sit with America until these attacks stop. Iran also told the 3 European countries that they were not discussing it with them, that they were not negotiating, that they were not talking about give and take, and that these talks were inconclusive. Subsequently, Iranian Prime Minister Karjaya, who had been attempting to stop America from striking, traveled to America before meeting with him in Geneva. He has now stated that Tehran should not be taken lightly by the U.S. intervention that is underway. In other words, America is fully in favor of its intervention in this issue. Everything is prepared, and Tehran shouldn't take it lightly since it is risky. But now you ought to realize what's crucial. The Telegraph reported a few days ago that China was sending mysterious transport planes into Iran, claiming that Luxembourg was the eventual destination. However, China had already packed a cargo and dispatched it to Iran. One plane entered the airspace and traveled to Tehran on this particular occasion while it was closed. According to the news, Godin Chang has raised the alarm over a number of Chinese cargo flights that have been reported to be flying close to Iranian airspace. It has also been reported that some Chinese flights have approached Iran's airspace, were detected by radar, and then vanished. Nobody is aware of where they landed, what was inside, or what Iran received. Add this to the equation now. The main idea of a recent piece in the New York Times is that if America attacks Iran, it will reveal China's limited influence in this area. In other words, it will reveal how powerful it is globally and how weak its grasp is on this region. This published opinion post serves as a wake-up call for China. The question of where China would stand in the event of an American strike and subsequent destruction in Iran is enlightening for China. China has made multi-billion-dollar investments in Iran. Iran is viewed by China as a very crucial ally. China is contributing to Iran's scale. Russia is contributing to Iran's scale as well. However, will China have to come out publicly, or will it continue to support Iran covertly? Will this be an open war for China? Since the world is currently discussing how the Iran-Israel war upsets the balance of power and challenges China's authority, the debate has already begun. In other words, America was on one side of the global balance that had merged into one, a global force. The balance is moving again, and China is a global force on one side. The test of China's might is this conflict. If America comes here, defeats a nation, and leaves, that is America's thought and imagination. Israel also came to accomplish this. But with Israel, what is happening now is a different matter. And in relation to the Middle East, China has stated that there will be no world peace if the region becomes unstable. Even before this, CNN reported that Sheikh Mohammed and Vladimir Putin discussed presenting a united front in the Iran-Israel conflict, which is a covert message for Donald Trump as well. However, you now realize that Iran is alone at the moment, and that no nation is publicly providing military support for Iran. Of course, there are some international sensations and many other issues, but the American media is discussing China's suspicious planes, and if this news is airing on the news, it is a pro-Trump outlet. Obviously, Donald Trump will also be impacted by this. The news must have gotten out, but will China continue to give some covert assistance? If so, we should believe this theory. If not, we won't either. However, if America steps in and intervenes and there is a war going on between two nations, two of which are in the Middle East, fighting each other, obviously Donald Trump will also be impacted by this. The news must have gotten out, but will China continue to give some covert assistance? If so, we should believe this theory. If not, we won't either. However, if America steps in and intervenes and there is a war going on between two nations, two of which are in the Middle East, fighting each other, if B-2 bomber is used, America has maintained nuclear weapons in Europe, wherever they may be, so that they can be shot against without being distracted and don't need to be transported from a great distance if necessary. Therefore, flights are operating from those bases where it is known that America maintains its nuclear warheads to American bases in the Middle East, meaning that America is not ruling out the possibility of launching a tactical nuclear attack in this region. Western media is now openly discussing this issue, arguing that if Iran has constructed its facility deeper than the bomb's capacity, and that the massive ordnance penetrator bomb of the B-2 bomber could not cause destruction and destroy the people's nuclear facility, then America can launch a tactical nuclear attack as well, tactical and broad. They claim that a nuclear attack is controlled and restricted to a certain area where damage is intended, but keep in mind that this destruction is uncontrollable. God forbid that the Fado nuclear facility is damaged because, as they say, atom bombs must be made there. If something like this occurs inside it and explosions continue to occur after attacks, God forbid that we consider that possibility. In fact, there is now news that, should an attack occur, the radiation will completely affect the Middle East, Arab countries, even far south India, and any neighboring country that is not completely protected from it. This is the truth. We discuss peace with peace, but now China is being put to the test. Furthermore, if the international media continues to report that this is a test of China's strength, capabilities, and influence in this area, then America will once again attain superiority by gaining the upper hand, upending the delicate balance that China had managed to establish among the world's powers. Will China put an end to this, and will it prevent America from doing this? In the next hours, everything will become evident. However, Beijing is now the center of Chinese thought, and certain Chinese movements are underway as well. In other words, you cannot claim that China is currently inactive, that it does not care about it, or that it can afford to ignore the Middle East progress. Take note, China has a huge market in which I am interested. Let's see where things go. As I mentioned at the outset, the BRI and other initiatives are in place. However, these were the recent advancements that were significant enough to share with you. Israel is still being attacked by Iran. Israel is being taken by surprise by Iran. Israel is also attacking Iran. But its attempts are failing since Iran is now expecting these attacks as well. Additionally, everything in Iran is secure, even though many things are kept under wraps. Tehran is now prepared. Israel's air defense system has undoubtedly been exposed, even though it wasn't prepared beforehand. We will therefore keep you informed about the most recent developments in the battle on both sides in our next blogs. However, it was crucial to bring this topic to your attention because it is crucial to understand global powers. This conflict is absolutely essential. Thank you for watching.